All right, welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. We're about to talk a little bit about the upcoming NFL draft. That's right. The draft process has begun. The All-Star games have begun. Tomorrow night will be the East-West Shrine game in Frisco, Texas. Saturday, I believe, will be the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. There's been practices all week. We're going to talk about who stood out in Frisco, who stood out in Mobile based on what we've seen and heard and the people that we've talked to. It's all straight ahead. It's the Krug Show special edition, a little Wednesday midday edition. We're talking football, talking draft. Fired up to be talking with you. Let's go. All right, welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania is at 831-521-5264. And today's live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who signs up automatically is entered in to win a free Ricky Pearsall red autographed Pearsall 14 jersey, and we'll give that away on Super Bowl Sunday. That's right. On our post-game show after Super Bowl 59, we will give away the Ricky Pearsall signed jersey to everybody who signs up, courtesy of our good friends at Better. Thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right. There's a lot going on. This is the time of year where if you're like me, former scout, football guy, this is the draft season. This is it right here. And it's funny because for a lot of people it starts today, but for almost all the scouts, this is the postseason. You had the spring practices, you had the entire college football season, then you had the bowl season. Now you've got the All-Star games. There's been a Hula Bowl. There's going to be the Shrine game tomorrow night. There's going to be the Senior Bowl coming up on Saturday. And then that's it for football. That is it. And then I think you start to get into the areas that are really scary. Because when you're evaluating football players playing football, it's hard to make a mistake. But when you're evaluating football players doing other things besides football, it's really easy to make mistakes. And I think teams that change their board dramatically during the combine and the workouts are probably missing the boat. Like 95% of your evaluation should be done right now, and there shouldn't be a huge swing in how you have these players graded based on what you see after the All-Star games, because the All-Star games are football. This is football. What's going on this week in Mobile, what's going on this week in Frisco, Texas, that's football. The combine, that's combine. I've seen guys lose 30 pounds and, have a totally different body by the time the combine rolls around, and they're running times that they wouldn't, that don't reflect how fast they play because they're not even at the same weight. So everything has to be, filtered once you get to the combine, and you can make mistakes at the Underwear Olympics for sure. But this week today we're gonna talk about what's going on and who's showing well for themselves in Mobile and Frisco. Of the players that we like in the regular season, now we're looking for players who kind of check that second box. Now they look good in the All-Star setting. The All-Star setting is a very bland setting. There's not a lot of X's and O's. They are intentionally vanilla on both sides of the ball. They don't allow blitzing. They want a vanilla offensive scheme. There's not going to be any trickery or anything like that. It's just going to be, here it is, because you're trying to see the prospects kind of show themselves and what talent they have. And so you want to eliminate scheme from the equation. So this week, Some of the most important stuff is the one-on-ones. A lot of one-on-ones, receivers and corners off the line of scrimmage, offensive linemen, defensive linemen. And the one-on-ones, I think, are really, really valuable to watch. So let's go through. Every year, prospects surface during the All-Star games. Last year, for example, Quinyon Mitchell, who had a great career at Toledo, really kind of showed in the All-Star setting that he was one of the cleanest prospects out there. He was really, really good. Eagles took him in the first round. He's starting in the Super Bowl. Another guy last year that had a great All-Star game, Ladd McConkey, rode that to a really nice rookie year with the Los Angeles Chargers. And another guy who dominated the All-Star circuit last year was Florida State's defensive lineman, Braden Fisk. And sure enough, Les Snead and the Rams plucked him, I think, in the second or third round. And Fisk and Verse led the Rams to the edge of the conference championship. I mean, it was an incredible year for the Rams. So last year, Quinyon Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, Braden Fisk opened eyes. Who is opening eyes this year? Who's this year's Quinyon? Who's this year's Ladd McConkey? Who's this year's Braden Fisk? We're going to talk about that in this video, in this live stream. So let's get into it, and we'll get right into it. The first guy I want to talk about is probably, like, if you said to me right now, Krug, you've been following the Niners all year. You follow the draft. I know there's a lot of workouts and a lot of stuff that has to happen between now and draft day. But today, as we're sitting here on January 29th, and you have the 11th pick in the first round, who are you going to take? Who are you going to draft with the 11th pick overall? That's the question that John Lynch and R.J. Gillens and Tariq Ahmad of the Niners front office, that's what they're asking themselves in their private moments. Who are we taking at 11? What's our plan? Who's the leader in the clubhouse? Is it going to be an offensive tackle? Is it going to be a defensive tackle? My guess is it's going to be one of those two positions, but maybe not. You never know. But my guess is it's an offensive tackle or a defensive tackle. Okay, so who is the first player we want to talk about who's opened eyes this weekend or this week in the practices? I got to start with one of my favorite players in the entire draft, and that is the former Texas A&M defensive tackle who transferred to Ole Miss, the great Walter Nolen. Let's talk Walter Nolen for a second. He's from Powell, Tennessee. He's a defensive tackle for Ole Miss. As I said, he started at Texas A&M, 6'4", 290 pounds. He has been drawing comparisons this week to Aaron Donald, to Ed Oliver, to Jalen Carter. He's a great player, 6'4", 290, five-star recruit in high school, started off at A&M. This is an excellent defensive tackle draft, so there's a chance that he could fall just simply because there's a lot of defensive tackles. So if you feel like you need a defensive tackle and it's down to Walter Nolen or one other guy, you may choose the other guy or just go in a different direction from defensive tackle because it's such a deep group. But Walter Nolen, in my mind, is really, really special, and you can see him in this video going through some of these drills. He's got great explosiveness. Look at that right there. I mean, look at the movement ability. He just jumped from the offensive guard's right shoulder to his left shoulder and left him totally flat-footed. Walter Nolen moves very, very – he's a very special player. He's got an explosive lower body. He's incredibly physical with his hands. 17 sacks as a senior in high school. This guy's been a great player going back to high school. His final year in high school, he had 17 sacks, 33 tackles for loss, 6 forced fumbles. He was a 5-star by all 3 different recruiting services, and A&M recruits incredibly well. They probably threw huge NIL money. He went and played at A&M. Then he transferred to go play for Lane Kiffin this year on a really good Ole Miss line, and he just didn't disappoint. Every game I watched, this guy's making plays. He's in the backfield. He's shooting gaps. He's incredible quickness, great strength. Second, I believe, in the SEC in run stops. Really, really good run defender, but also incredible quickness. This is the highlight right here. It's amazing. I mean, let's go back and watch that. Roll that one back. I mean, you're just sitting there, and he just jumps from one side to the other side, and it was impressive. Here we go. We'll roll this one back. He's lined up on the right shoulder of, I think that's Emory Jones, and he just gives him a little rip swim, and now he lost his footing, but he's by him, man. He is literally by him. Goodbye. I'm right by you. And if he kept his feet, he's in the face of the quarterback. So, and Jones is a good player. And there's no question. Emory Jones could be a second-round pick or a third-round pick. So Walter Nolen. We'll start our guys that stood out in Mobile. Walter freaking Nolen. If the Niners picked today at 11, I would take Walter Nolen. I would start the draft right there. Now, he's projected to go later. He's projected to go, 15, 18, 20, 25. Some people have him in the top of the second round. I'll tell you right now, just after watching him in Mobile, he's not going in the second round, and he's not going in the back of the first round. He's probably going to go in the top of the. He's probably going to go in the first half of the first round. So if the 49ers wanted him, could they trade back? Yeah, maybe a spot or two. Maybe you could trade from like 11 to 13 or 11 to 15, something like that. But you better not go too much further than that, because I think that's pretty much where he's going to be. Now, some people I've seen who are really in love with him say, "Oh, I know he's going to go top 10." I don't know if he's going to go top 10. In fact, I would assume he's not going to go top 10. But what he is just he's a monster. He's a monster, and he's got great quickness, great strength. He's done it as a pass rusher.
Not there. We'll let this play happen.
He's done it as a pass rusher. He's done it as a run defender. He's done it in the biggest conference in America. He's done it in two different defenses. Walter Nolen. Walter Nolen. Just remember that name. He is a special, special player. And it's a special defensive tackle draft. And to me, he's one of my favorites. All right, let's go to the second name on the list, a guy who's really looked good this week. Really, I think this is one of the best tight end drafts I can remember. Elijah Arroyo, the Miami tight end, has looked really, really good. Now, this is a loaded tight end group. It really is. Tyler Warren from Penn State is Gronk 2.0. Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, crazy production. I mean, the guy just caught every ball there was. He was amazing this year. Colston Loveland from Michigan is one of the great young tight ends to come out in a while. I mean, he is an incredible athlete, 6'5", 245, runs incredibly well. Somebody had mocked him to the Chiefs. God, the last thing we need is to see him with Kansas City. But he's a lot like a Travis Kelce. He's an incredible receiver who's about 6'5". Mason Taylor from LSU is Jason Taylor's son, who played at Akron, played for the Dolphins. And he's got great ball skills. Mason Taylor from LSU. Gunnar Helm from Texas, big-time player. Jake Briningstool from Clemson, super athletic player. Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame. I love Mitchell Evans, 6'5", 256, elite hands. Aronde Gadsden from Syracuse. Benjamin Urasek, who started at Stanford and transferred to Georgia. Caden Priestcorn from Ole Miss is a big-time player. Jackson Hawes, who was at Georgia Tech, he transferred from Yale. I really like him. Rivaldo Fairweather from Auburn. Jalen Conyers, who transferred from ASU to Texas Tech. What a great player Jalen Conyers is. Big 6'4", 265, really good tight end. Probably going to be a day 3 guy. And there's other guys. I mean, Towson has a guy named Carter Runyon, who's 6'6", 235, really intriguing. Malik Carr from Houston, 6'5", 265. I mean, it's a great draft. But Elijah Arroyo has been the guy down in Mobile that has lit it up. And what he is 6'5", 250, and he's a vertical threat. He's an incredible route runner. He's got great speed, great hands. I watched a lot of the Hurricanes this year, but the Hurricanes, and obviously Cam Ward was the Hurricanes quarterback, but I didn't focus that much ever on, really focus on Elijah Arroyo. But Arroyo, what an incredible down the field threat he is. I mean, he showed a lot of ability this throughout the week in Mobile. Just this guy can run down the field and catch the ball. I mean, you're talking about a guy with really, here you see him kind of flexed out against the corner. You just gave him a little move to the middle, catches it naturally, and is up the field. Good little kind of sold, it's kind of sold the head and shoulder fake here, tracked that really nicely over the shoulder, got a step on the defender and pulled it in. Here's another one. He gets a little separation on the defender. Arroyo showed that he could catch the ball down the field. Big target, plucks it with his hands. Yeah, good player. Good player. So this is a great position. I mean, this is the position one of the year. This is one of the best years I've ever seen for tight end. I mean, there's all if you need one and the Niners need one, heck, you might want to take two. Look at Arroyo there, where he just plucks it with his hands. Big-bodied guy, gets his head turned. A lot of guys don't get their head turned fast enough. He does. Boom, right there, catches it, goes down. So, I really love the tight end class, and Elijah Arroyo is a name to remember for sure. All right, let's get to the third guy on this list, Omar Norman Lott. Omar Norman Lott is a NorCal guy who didn't start this year. I mean, it's funny. You sit there and go, well, Omar, you think all these guys were stars on their team. Omar Norman Lott did not start at all this year. For Tennessee. That's how loaded Tennessee is. 6'3", 315 pounds. What stood out this week in the one-on-ones is just how powerful he is. He's a NorCal guy, went to Grant Union High School up in Sacramento. He was a 4-star high school recruit. Started off at ASU, played a few seasons at ASU, and then the final 2 seasons in Tennessee for the Vols. 9.5 sacks in the 2 seasons in Knoxville, which is a good number. I mean, 9.5 sacks from an interior guy with great strength. As I said, he didn't start on this D-line because they're just so loaded, but he's good. And he's very, very strong. And I would say he's probably going to be a day 3 defensive tackle. But the strength that he showed this week in those one-on-ones, I mean, he's throwing guys around. He's just making these guys look weak. Fun guy to watch for sure. Omar Norman Lott. And he doesn't have tons of moves. I wouldn't say. I mean, he's like, as you can see here, he's coming out of his stance. He's bull rushing you. But look at the strength. Look at the strength. I mean, this is an All-American center right there that he's just basically waltzing back into the lap of the quarterback. That's great strength. Now he doesn't have tons of moves. He's limited as a pass rusher. But if you're looking for a rotational day 3 defensive tackle that can hold the point, stuff the run, and be a force, be a factor in the pass game as well, put a little heat on the quarterback, Omar Norman Lott, he stood out. He stood out. In a lot of these one-on-ones, you can kind of tell who the really strong guys are, and man, this guy really is. I mean, if he wants to, lock his elbows out and get underneath your shoulder pads and drive you back, he's got the ability to just move anybody. I mean, all these guys are really strong. Now, there's good movement ability here too. If you're looking at this, he's going through the bags. Look at that. Look at the dip. I mean, that's good movement ability for 310 pounds, as functionally strong as he is. Now, I don't see tons of movement ability. He doesn't have lots of moves. He's an underdeveloped rusher. He's more of a strong man with, who's gonna hold his point. He's gonna stay home. And he's going to make a lot of plays in the run game. Not going to give you a ton as a pass rusher, but man, he's impressive. Omar Norman Lott. All right, let's talk about another guy that has opened eyes down here or down there, I should say, in Mobile. I'm not there. Tyler Shugg. And you say Tyler Shugg. We're talking about the quarterback now. Niners probably are not in the market for a quarterback on day 1 or day 2, but there's a chance that they will take a flyer on a quarterback on day 3. And if they do, it should be this guy, Tyler Shugg, who started at Oregon. He's a great story. He finished up at Louisville. And 6'5", 225 pounds. He's going to be an older prospect. He's going to be a 26-year-old rookie. He's 25 right now. He's from Chandler, Arizona. Went to Hamilton High School in Chandler, Arizona. What I love is this guy's got a big arm, man. Big arm. 6'5", 225. This guy can spin it. I mean, big, strong, powerful. Watching this guy throw the ball down the field, he can really rip it. Really rip it. Day 3 sleeper quarterback for sure. If you're looking for a guy with some stature and some arm strength who can really put some zip on the ball, Tyler Shugg. He can really, really, fling it. And 3 seasons at Texas Tech, he was really good. I think he was like 8-1 or 10-1 or something like that as a starter at Texas Tech. threw for 436 yards one day at Oklahoma. I remember seeing that game. He was the MVP of the Texas Bowl in their win over Ole Miss a couple years ago. He started off at Oregon, and he graduated from Oregon in 3 years with 2 different degrees. I mean, this guy's really impressive. He's big, he's strong, he's smart. His dad played football at Cal Lutheran. He's already got his master's at Texas Tech. So, I mean, the guy's graduated in 3 years with 2 different degrees at Oregon, transfers to Texas Tech, has got his master's now from Texas Tech. I mean, once upon a time, too, this was a really highly rated recruit. I mean, when Oregon got him, everybody wanted him. Tyler Shugg was a very popular high school recruit. And, this guy throws a great ball. I mean, this 6'5", 225 with a gun. And he's got some movement ability. It's not like the guy can't move. He can. He's an interesting player. I mean, this guy can really throw it. He can really zing it. He can put it in those tight windows. And he's got that stature, and he's not a statue. He's 6'5", 225. But, if you flush him from the pocket, he can move a little bit. But what really stands out is the howitzer. The guy's got the big-time gun. And he really does. And he's fun to watch. And then you factor in, look at this guy's resume. He's an older player, but he's succeeded in multiple offenses. He's got great stature and arm strength and can really rip it. He's been productive. Guy's had a very productive career. He's won a lot of games. He's been the MVP of a bowl game, As I said, he graduated in 3 years from Oregon with 2 different degrees and then went to Texas Tech and has already got his master's. He's a second-generation college football player. His dad played at Cal Lutheran. So, and he's physically exactly what you're looking for. I mean, this is exactly the way NFL scouts would draw up the physical prototype for quarterbacks. 6'5", 2.25, good athleticism, has some mobility, but can really rip it. So that would be my sleeper quarterback guy. If Niners are looking for a Brock Purdy, I wouldn't have a problem next year if they wanted to bypass, they've been talking about Joe Flacco. But if they wanted to bypass Flacco and just go, hey, you know what? We're going to go super cheap quarterback room behind Brock. We're going to pay Brock, and then we're going to have Tanner Mordecai, and we're going to draft Tyler Shugg out of Louisville, the redshirt senior in like the 5th or 6th round. And you want to go to camp with Shugg and Mordecai and Purdy, I'm fine with that. In an ideal world, you'd have a little bit of experience there, but it would be a very cost-effective quarterback room behind the starter, and Shugg's definitely a big arm guy who can make all the NFL throws, so he is super intriguing. Tyler Shugg from Louisville by way of University of Oregon. By way of Texas Tech. So, Oregon, Texas Tech, Louisville. That's how it went for Tyler Shugg. Okay, next guy on the list is one of my absolute favorites, and that is Shemar Stewart. Shemar Stewart, the defensive lineman from Texas A&M. And, once again, as I mentioned, I'm an A&M fan, so I do watch a lot of A&M. But this guy, I don't care who he plays for. He's badass. 6'6", 290, and if you see him, you'd swear he's 250. This guy moves like 250, but he's 285, 290. Incredible athlete, 5-star recruit, great high school star, hoop star and football star from the Miami, Florida area. 3rd-team All-SEC this year, led A&M with 7 quarterback hurries. You just don't see guys that look like Shemar Stewart. You just don't. And he, I don't know if we have any real clips that we can show you from the week, but Shemar, here's one. Here he is. He just throws that guy down. Just pushes that guy down. Look at this guy's 285. That's the other thing. This is a defensive end. This is a true defensive end is 285. Does that look like 285 to you? Does that guy look 285? No. He looks more like 260. He's linear and fast. They had the 2 Shemars on that D-line. They had Shemar Turner, who I believe has a foot injury, but he's in this draft. He's a defensive tackle, another guy, 5-star. And then you got Shemar Stewart, who's 285, 290, but he's a defensive end. And he can dip his shoulder. Now, you're not seeing I guess you saw it a little bit there. But, I mean, this guy's got the ability to play defensive end. And when you think of Robert Saleh, when Robert Saleh was here, he played Eric Armstead at defensive end. So he may like a bigger body defensive end opposite Nick Bosa. And maybe Shamar Stewart will be their guy. Shamar is going to be there at 11 for sure. If they decided they wanted to trade down into the teens or early 20s, he's going to be there probably for them at that point. This guy's big time. This is a big time athlete. I mean, the A&M recruits a lot of good players, but this guy really stands out. Strong against the run, but he's got pass rush ability. Can bend the edge at almost 290 pounds. I think if they wanted to, he's a versatile guy. He's scheme versatile. I mean, you could use him as a defensive tackle in your NASCAR package. I mean, the Niners use Sam O inside on obvious passing downs. I could see a situation where on first and second down, Shamar Stewart is opposite Nick Bosa. And then on some key third downs, you put him inside and you go with your NASCAR 4 defensive end alignment, and you've got this guy inside. And from the inside position, this guy's an incredible speed mismatch. So, I mean, he just overpowered that guy, and he just goes right by Jones. Right by him. I mean, Jones is a big-time player. Probably going to be a second-round pick. So there are very few guys that have Shamar Stewart's skill set. There just aren't there aren't guys like this. There aren't guys that are 280, 285 and are legitimate 4-3 defensive ends. And that's what this guy is. He's a 4-3 defensive end. And if you want a big-bodied guy opposite Nick Bosa, but also a guy who's athletic as hell and can get the edge, Shamar Stewart might be your guy. So love Shamar Stewart. Fantastic player. Probably going to go late first round. So he's number 5 on my list. And there's no real order. I just made a list of the guys that stood out to me. There's no real order on this. Number 6 on my list is a guy. Now, I don't know if the 49ers are going to go wide receiver, but it is interesting. Every year in Mobile, there's some wide receiver that takes the whole thing over. Past years, we've seen Tank Dell was the star in Mobile. Jaden Reed was the star in Mobile. Christian Watson of the Packers was the star in Mobile. This year, the star in Mobile at receiver, Tez Johnson. Tez. And I've had a bunch of Oregon people suggesting to me all year, oh, man, you got to check out Tez. You got to check out Tez. And it's like, maybe it's the A.J. Jenkins history, but maybe I'm scarred by A.J. Jenkins and how bad he was for the 49ers, and he was kind of diminutive. But you take a look at Tez here. Tez is unguardable. Unguardable. Look at the separation he creates on every turn. He separates. There's 5 yards there. I mean, this defender can't stay anywhere close to him. He cuts in. The defender's not really on him. Touch. Little hesitation. Little out. The guy falls down. You can't stay with this guy. Nobody can stay with this guy. He's really, really quick. I mean, slender. We're talking about sub 170. There are strength concerns for sure, but he's an electric athlete. He separates with ease. He's been unguardable all week in Mobile. He's got great stop-start quickness, and he's got excellent balance. And if you looked at his career, he's a tremendously productive football player. So, Tez is going to be intriguing. I don't expect the Niners to go receiver, but, I mean, this guy is interesting because he can separate, and the Niners, do the Niners need a receiver? Well, if they do, they need a speed receiver. They don't need any receiver. They need somebody who can separate and make big plays. Why? Because they've got Pearsall and JJ and Debo and Ayuk off a knee injury with surgery, major surgery. Outside of Jacob Cowan, they don't really have anybody that is fast. They don't really have that speed. So if the Niners are going to add a receiver, it's got to be a super fast, quick, shifty, separating big play guy. And that's Tez. There he is. I mean, Tez is that kind of a guy. He's a big play guy. Now, he may be one hit away. He may take one hit from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and never play again because he is pretty diminutive. But look at the cutting ability. When this guy cuts in the open field, the defenders can't stay with him. Like he just runs right by that guy. That guy's going full speed, can't catch him. I mean, it's impressive. And you're doing this on an athlete. This is a field of all-stars. These are the best players in the country in Mobile. And Tez just separates every cut. He's just open. He's just open. He's got pretty good hands. Now, I don't know if he can take a hit. He's 168 pounds, but look at that. I mean, just a little out route, and the guy couldn't keep his feet. So another guy to take a look at, Tez Johnson from Oregon, number 6 on our list. Now, another guy that I really, really like that stood out in some of the highlights and some of the commentary this week is Jacob Parrish. This is the K-State slot corner. And just, this guy's got speed to burn. I mean, and this is where, when the Niners are talking about, hey, man, the Niners really need more speed on defense. If they're going to go with a corner, this might be the guy for them. Jacob Parrish, 5'10", 195, total mediocre size. But he's got big-time speed. And he was all Big 12 honorable mention this year. Former state champion sprinter. Ran 10.47 in the 100 meters. 24 career starts. Very strong. Loves to play press man. Never played cornerback in high school. Was a wide receiver. He played a little safety. Didn't play any corner until he got to Manhattan. And he has been absolutely phenomenal. And if you look, if you read the Jacob Parrish story, it's a super athletic family. I mean, seriously. His older brother was a state champion wrestler, Javon. He's got a couple sisters who are great athletes. He's got a couple other brothers who are great athletes. I mean, this is an incredibly athletic family for sure. And Jacob Parrish is the Niners don't have that corner that has the deep speed that can run with anybody. This guy does. This guy's got the deep speed that you're looking for. And he looked good on the practice field. And he looked good in the one-on-ones. I mean, this is a hard guy to shake. Now, he's not the biggest guy, 5'10", 195, but that's fine. If he was 5'7", we got a problem. But at 5'10", 195, we'll take that. And the fact, if the Niners want to start playing a little bit more man-to-man, well, guess what? If you match up, you play man. If you don't match up, you play zone. So, very impressive player for K-State. Jacob Parrish, the K-State corner. All right, maybe one of the guys that has been talked about the most down in Mobile this week is the North Dakota State offensive lineman, Gray Zabel. Now, lots of film on him is all over the place on Gray Zabel. People are loving what they see from Gray Zabel. North Dakota State, and he's played tackle, but he can play center. He can play guard. He can play tackle. This guy is just really, really powerful hands, really good ability to sit in his stance and anchor. Like I've seen him anchor against bull rushers this week, and he doesn't go anywhere. He stonewalls some of these guys. I probably only saw him lose a couple reps in all the video that I saw all week, and and there were a bunch of people that were posting videos of Gray Zabel. He's had a very good week in Mobile. He's probably earned himself the most money. In 2024 at North Dakota State, he played 453 pass blocking snaps. He gave up 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits all year. Now, granted, it's FCS. It's a step in this next level. It's going to be a major step up in competition. But, was that kid Mock, also came out of North Dakota State a few years ago that Tampa drafted, and he started on their offensive line this year, Cody Mock. Gray Zabel looks better than Cody Mock. And Mock had a good Senior Bowl week, too. He had a good all-star circuit, but Zabel has just been stonewalling people, and nobody's getting anywhere against him. I mean, look at him finish the guy to the ground there. Just a powerful guard, but he's got the ability to maybe play center. Look at the wide base. Look at the footwork. I mean, I think that's Peebles that he's going against there. But you're talking about a guy who's got a wide base, keeps a wide base, and he's a finisher. I mean, just finished that guy to the ground there. Now, you can be a little too wide on your base because you're gonna potentially cause yourself an injury.
It was a tackle, but
I mean, this guy, the tenaciousness, the fight. Here's a guy that was bull rushing him, and he just keeps him out of there, driving him down. I mean, these are all stars. That was Antoine Peebles right there, who I also really like. But yeah, Zabel has had a fantastic week in Mobile, and he's a guy to keep your eye on. Gray Zabel, really powerful hands, really good anchor strength, and just played his ass off in the practices this week. I mean, he went into these practices like it was Super Bowl Sunday, and he made himself some money. So Gray Zabel, interesting player from North Dakota State. Couple other guys, running backs that really stood out. This is an elite running back draft. I mean, I think this is maybe the best running back draft I can remember. If you go back and you go look at the big board for running backs, Ashton Gianti averaged like 12 yards a carry for Boise. Amarion Hampton is 225 pounds. He's no picnic to tackle. Scatabo from ASU, supposedly a Niner fan too. Really good player. Kind of reminds me of Juice. Maybe like he could be Juice's replacement. Caleb Johnson from Iowa, damn good, 225-pound running back. Buckeyes had Quinshawn Judkins and Travion Henderson. I mean, both those guys are terrific. Ollie Gordon. John Lund was saying the other day how much he likes Ollie Gordon out of Oak State. Doug Hendrickson, my buddy, the sports agent, just signed Dylan Sampson from Tennessee. Sampson had a really, really good career at Tennessee, and he's a very good back. R.J. Harvey has been really impressive in a lot of the workouts in Mobile from Central Florida. 5'9", about 210. I mean, this is an incredible class. I just named about 10 guys there. There's Devin Neal from Kansas. There's DJ Giddens from K-State. There's Jarquez Hunter from Auburn. There's Khalil Mullings from Michigan, who's a house. He's about 235, 240. Raheem Sanders from South Carolina. Taj Brooks from Texas Tech is a bowling ball back, 5'10", 230 pounds. Really hard to tackle. He's been really good in the All-Star workouts. Damian Martinez from the Hurricanes. Donovan Edwards from the Wolverines. If you watch Vatek Hockey football, Bayshul Tutin is a hell of a player. I just mentioned so the two running backs that really stood out, and I didn't mention either of them here, but one of them is Marcus Yarns from Delaware, 5'11", 190-pound graduate, senior grad student, and Brashard Smith from SMU. And both these guys are incredible. Brashard Smith, if we have the film of Brashard Smith, I mean, he is really intriguing. Very intriguing player. He's got vision. He's a good route runner, sharp cuts. He's a Miami kid. He started at the U and transferred to SMU. SMU got a bunch of transfers. And Brashard Smith is just an elite athlete. I mean, you watch him and look at that. Look at that. I mean, that if we can play that one again, let's see that again. So here he is. He bounces it outside, and he's down the side. Look at the speed. Brashard Smith. I mean, just a really, 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 really good football player. Gomer Kyle says, Larry, you list all these bums every year, only 5% amount to anything. That's actually not true. All these guys usually amount to quite a bit. Marcus Yarns from Delaware was great in the one-on-ones. 5'11", 190-pound grad student. Played football, basketball, and lacrosse at Delaware. Tremendous athlete. I saw Yarns in some game earlier this year, and I thought, oh, my goodness, look at this guy. Really impressive player. Runs hard, smart player, really, really interesting. Marcus Yarns. So those are a couple of the running backs that stand out. All right, we're getting down on our list. Probably the guy who probably made the most money for himself and had the best film this week was Mike Green. Mike Green, the Marshall MVP of the Marshall Thundering Herd, team captain of the Marshall Thundering Herd, 6'4", 250-pound defensive end, Mike Green, dominated the one-on-ones, abused that Oregon tackle, Connerly. Oh, my God. Some amateur draft scout says Mike Green with 17 sacks. Yep, led the nation. Led the nation. I mean, this guy is really something. This is probably the most impressive guy this week. I got to be honest. He's from Williamsburg, Virginia. He didn't just lead the nation with 17 sacks. He set the Sun Belt Conference record. I mean, this guy is incredible. 22 and a half tackles for loss. He started at Virginia, UVA transfer. Everybody wanted this guy. I mean, literally, I was looking at the list of offers he had. He had 25 offers for college. He chose Virginia and then transferred to Marshall. And the strength and the size. You know, some people are just going to say no because, he doesn't fit every scheme. He's 6'4", 250. So, if you're one of these teams that, like the Niners typically like, their defensive ends to be more like 265, 270 in that range. But, man, I would never pass on this guy. I mean, this is the guy. If somehow you could get Walter Nolan or Shamar Stewart and Mike Green with your first two picks, that might be the goal of the draft. I mean, this guy is something else, man. And this guy checks all the boxes. And when I say that, what am I talking about? Okay, first of all, very productive player. I start there. If you don't produce, you're no good. This guy produces. I mean, look at this. I mean, he's just moving these guys. Now, this one, he got kind of stonewalled. But for the most part, I mean, there you got a little spin move. Look at the way he closed there. I mean, this guy's used to sacking the quarterback. He's had some amazing reps down here in Mobile where you're just watching him against really good players and he's just bulldozing them or just running right through them or running right by them. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, that right there, this is not an every down occurrence. Look at this. This is a 250-pound man going against a 310-pound man. Sit on your keister, big fella. I mean, that's just decleating him. Oh, look what he does to Connerly from Oregon. He just threw him down. It's like, I'm going right on by you.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I mean, that is just beastly, man. He's got the ability to dip the shoulder. He's got the flexibility.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I would say in this, he looks like 6'2", but he's 6'4", because the guy he's going against is probably like 6'7". But yeah, 6'4", 250, amateur draft scout. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. 49er red zone. Destroyed. Yeah. I mean, Mike Green, my goodness. He looked fantastic. But when I say he checks all the boxes, okay, so he was a great high school player. So it's not like sometimes you look at these guys like, they get the 1 year in a great scheme. Maybe they're playing opposite a great player. Anybody could have one great year. But when you're trying to see, the true essence of a player, you got to go back. This guy was a highly decorated high school player. He was widely recruited around the country from Williamsburg, Virginia, goes to UVA, transfers to Marshall, becomes the best defensive. He's the defensive player of the year in the conference. Sun Belt Conference record holder for sacks now. Then you look at, like our, my good friend who makes the freaks list, the great Bruce Feldman from The Athletic. This guy, I'm sure, is on the freaks list. This guy benches 380. He squats 440. I mean, so physically he's got he's got the freaky measurables and the workout numbers. He's got the freaky production. 22 and a half tackles for loss this year, led the nation. 17 sacks, led the nation. And did it in high school, did it in college, did it two different programs. Is he a little undersized? Yeah, he's a little undersized. But man, pound for pound strength. Off the freaking charts. Mike Green, from Marshall. Everybody loves him. Everybody's in love with this guy. All right, another guy. As I said, it's an incredible year for defensive line. We're going to hit some defensive linemen here down the stretch. We got 4 or 5 more names to get to here. One guy who just absolutely really there are really a couple guys this week that really opened my eyes that I didn't really have on my list. One is the Vatek Hokie defensive lineman. Now, his name's Aeneas Peebles, and he's just been unblockable. And then when you watch him, he's just high energy, whirling dervish. And then you look at the measurable 6'1", 290. And he just has been, I know, is he a 5 technique in a 3-4? Is he a 4-3 defensive tackle? Is he a 1-gap penetrating tackle in the Niners wide 9? Is he a defensive end? I mean, literally, this guy could play anywhere. He shows the kind of bend and kind of athleticism and foot quickness where maybe he could play defensive end. I mean, he's got that kind of motor and that kind of burst at 290 pounds on a 6'1" frame. It's something to watch. This guy started off at Duke. He's a super smart guy. He's already graduated from Duke. He's got a high revving motor. He's incredibly active with his hands. He's been unblockable all week in Mobile. He's from Raleigh, North Carolina. Dad played defensive line at App State. Mom was a college softball star at Long Beach State. This guy's got athletic genes. Aeneas Peebles. This guy, I mean, I don't know what position he's going to play. I don't even know if he's an every down guy. He might just be a rotational guy that you move all over the defensive line, but who cares? When you're playing the way this guy plays and you're 6'1", 290 with that kind of motor and that kind of leverage, I don't care. Go out there and see where the other guys are lined up and line up on one of those other spots. Who cares? This guy's so big, so strong, so fast, so unblockable. And he's got kind of a short torso. He rushes with tremendous lean. He gives you no surface. Like, I guarantee you, offensive linemen, if we interviewed them, they'd be like, dude, I don't want to block that guy. I can't even get my hands on him. He's like, he gives you a tiny little target. It's all arms and legs. The motor doesn't stop. He did it at Vatek. He did it at Duke. I mean, the guy's big time, man. Aeneas Peebles, 6'1", 290. Now let's get to some of the crazy film. Jamare Caldwell. We got to talk about this guy. This is probably the craziest film I saw all week. I mean, this one is crazy. This one, once we put up the Jamare Caldwell video, you're just going to sit there and go, what? What are we watching here? Jamare Caldwell is an athlete, JUCO athlete, played at Oregon, 6'1", 345 pounds, from a tiny little town in South Carolina, Newberry, South Carolina. Went the JUCO route. Played offensive line in high school. He was a left guard. He was a left tackle. He's a defensive lineman now. And this guy, I mean, look at this movement ability. This is 340 pounds. Who moves like that at 345? And that's crazy. That's unbelievable movement ability at 345 pounds. Now I don't know what kind of endurance he has in the fourth quarter. But when you're looking at that kind of movement ability, Jamare Caldwell, I mean, this guy moves like a guy who's 285. He's 340. He's 65 pounds heavier than you would think when you watch him move. When you watch him move, you're like, that guy's probably 280, 290. He's 340. 340. And he can this guy reminds me of Dana Stubblefield. Look how wide he is, but look how fast he moves. Dana moved so fast for a big-bodied guy. But this guy's got two gapper traits. Two gapper. Look at that. I mean, look at the movement ability. Now he got buried there. That was a good Monheim, I believe, stuffed him there. But and so you got to keep your feet. You got to play the game on your feet. I'm not saying this. I'm just marveling. This guy was not on my list. Okay, I did not have Jamari Caldwell on my list of guys to look at this week. But, I mean, just my eyes tell me if you're 342 pounds and you're moving like this, that's great movement ability for 340. So on that alone, I'd be interested in Jamari Caldwell from Oregon. All right, my favorite offensive lineman in this draft is Anthony Belton. And and some people are like, oh, Krug, you just throw out these names. No, if you've been listening to me this year, if you've been watching me this year on YouTube, I've talked about this guy a lot. Anthony Belton, NC State, tremendous player, 6'6", 336 pounds. Tallahassee, Florida kid. Played his high school ball at the Georgia Military Academy. I love his nickname too. They call him Escalade. I mean, I'd love to hear the explanation behind why they call him Escalade, other than the fact he's just a house, and he's probably he's a smooth ride, and he's a house. 6'6", 336. But I mean, the hand movements, the hand power. The foot quickness, it's hard to see because you got scouts standing here. You can't really see his feet. But what really makes Belton crazy prospect is the footwork. I mean, he's truly a dancing bear. I mean, look at this guy. He's playing left tackle. He can play right tackle. Look at that. He's just got huge guy with great feet. And just kind of plays kind of nasty. Like he's got kind of a nasty disposition. Look at that. Throws that guy down. He's moving the feet. Look at him moving the feet, the agility. I mean, this is a big boy, man. This guy, the Niners don't have this. They don't have this guy. I mean, think about it. Trent Williams is like, what, 6'6", 325 or something like that? This guy's 6'6" and change, like 335. This guy blocks out the sun. Look at him. Look at that. Look at that last highlight. He just buried that dude. That was crazy. Look at this. Look at this highlight. He's playing left tackle. It's the next highlight after this pass. Right here. Look at this. Oh, no, he just moves that guy out of the way. Now he's playing left tackle. No, that's not it. It's probably the next one. Oh, here it is. Yeah, right. Yeah, look at that. Oh, no, this is it right here. Just buries this guy outside. They run right behind him. I mean, Anthony Belton's got great feet, super strong, nasty, great mover. For whatever reason, that guy's going to be there in the third round. And that's my offensive tackle right there. He's my future backup to Trent, but I'm starting him this year at Colton spot at right tackle. And I'm taking that guy. I'd probably take him in the third round. If I had to move up a little bit, I would. He's that good. Anthony Belton. Love him. The one thing about these offensive linemen, the speed, you have to adjust in the NFL. The NFL, think about it. The speed rushers are getting smaller and faster and more athletic every year. They're 225 pounds. They're 230 pounds. What is Micah Parsons? 245. He's not the biggest guy. These guys aren't 275. A lot of them are smaller guys. So you got to have great feet. You have to be able to move. Strength is vitally important, but speed and movement ability is more important because the guys who come off the edge in the NFL are freaks. They're all super fast, super strong, and you can't just be a guy with long arms. Hey, I'm 340 and I've got 36-inch arms. Great. But can you move your feet? Can you move your feet? Because if you can't move your feet, Micah Parsons is going right on by. If you can't move your feet, Hassan Reddick is going right on by. I mean, that's just the way it is. You have to be able to move your feet. That cat for Baltimore, Oweh, guy runs like 4.43 or something like that. He is one of the best, fastest defensive ends in pro football. You got to be able to block that guy. You want your quarterback to stand up for the whole game, you got to be able to block the Owehs of the world. So you need Escalade. You need Anthony Belton and his killer feet. And 6'6", 335. Awesome player. I did a live stream a couple months ago with one of my favorite guys, Guy Haberman. And, I love to pick Guy's brain. Guy's been doing a lot of college ball, right? He's been doing a lot of college games. So I said to him, hey, man, Guy, who stands out to you? You've been watching college ball all year. You're a smart guy. And I know he's got that kind of personnel side to him as well, where he likes to keep an eye on who's good and who's not. And I asked him, who are some guys that stood out? And one of the first guys he said was the former Cal Bear, who's now at UCLA as an edge rusher, Oluwafemi Oladejo. And I'm not just saying it. I'm not saying the name so I could show off, but I have said it a few times. Oluwafemi Oladejo. This guy played 3 years at middle backer for Cal. This guy was an inside linebacker. And UCLA, he transferred to UCLA, and he's coming off the edge, and he had a great week. Look at some of these plays down in Mobile. Look at that. Look at that. He just, goodbye. That tackle did not even get his hands on him. Oladejo is just so fast, so explosive, and he's gotten really good with his hands. For a guy who played middle backer, this guy looks like he's played his whole career at defensive end when you watch him. Very productive player. Loved what he did at UCLA and loved what he did off the edge. Liked him as a linebacker. Love him as a defensive end. And he's smart. This is a really smart kid. This is a good player. Oluwafemi Oladejo. Probably a day 3 rusher. But, I mean, look at that. These are the best tackles in the country. That guy lunged and whiffed. Lunge, whiff. He's gone. Sack. I mean, that's fast, man. That's fast. And I don't know how Oladejo's going to run. He looks pretty fast there, doesn't he? And that looks fast. That guy was special. And is going to be special at the next level. Oluwafemi Oladejo. Couple more before we get out. And I've got one more defensive end and 3 more defensive tackles. This is an awesome defensive tackle draft. So this guy wasn't in Mobile. It's funny too. I wonder if Damon never talks about this guy, but he played for Indiana. CJ West, the big defensive tackle from Indiana, was in Frisco, Texas, and he was dominating in the one-on-ones. Really dominating. Very strong. We're talking about 6'1", 320 pounds. But the movement ability on him was unbelievable. He had a couple of highlights that were just crazy. Where you're just sitting there going, wow, that guy's 320? 320 pounds? CJ West. He looked unblockable. Now, the prospects at the Shrine are not quite the same caliber as the prospects at Mobile. I mean, that's just a reality, but it doesn't matter. They're still very good players, and CJ West is a run stuffer. His job is a run stuffer, but man, he showed speed and quickness. He looked like a faster version of DJ Jones. He's really strong against the run. CJ West, you watch his film, he's everywhere, man. I mean, Indiana was a team this year, and it's largely because of guys like this guy, CJ West. Just a tremendous, yeah. I mean, the pull. I mean, like he's gonna rush that guy, and then he does like a push pull type thing. Now that guy's on the ground, he's by him. I mean, that's good footwork, good coordination, hands and feet kind of tied together, high energy, kind of rips it. Yeah, and this is a short area. This guy fights you in a phone booth. I mean, this guy's 320 on a 6'1" frame, but the speed, the quickness, the strength, and the explosiveness, guy's a beast. That is a beast. And he is going to play in the NFL on first and second down for sure as a run defender. And looking at that quickness, he might be a 3-down guy. So really, really like CJ West from Indiana. Okay, last 3 guys. Darius Alexander from Toledo, who wore number 9 at Toledo. I mean, this guy is another guy. Dominant in the MAC, 6'4", 310. He's scheme versatile. I think this guy could be a 5 technique and a 34 front. I think he could be a 3 technique and in a 4-3 front. I think he could be a 0 technique if you wanted to play him, on the nose. He's strong and he's really broad. and very, very athletic. He's from Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's got an awesome club rip move. If you watch some of this video, just a great club rip move. And there was a couple examples of him using that club rip in Mobile. And just very strong. Keeps his shoulders squared. Plays with a really good motor. It's really, really strong hands. And dominated the MAC. I mean, just absolutely dominated the MAC. And, I think this guy may be drafted really high, a lot higher, because his workouts are going to be really good. At 6'4", 310, his film's good. And from what I've been told, he's a hell of a kid. So Darius Alexander from Toledo is going to be, this is another guy. You get enough of these guys, you play them in a rotation. You figure out, you can never have enough good defensive linemen. If you look at the Niners, what's the biggest difference between the Niners this year and the Niners in past years? In past years, their backup defensive linemen were guys that were really good. Samson Ebukam and Sheldon Day, and, they had all kinds of guys who used to be able to play. Arden Key, and, think of guys in their front seven that didn't start for them. Aziz Al-Shair. And these guys were on the bench. And this year, if you could garner a few extra picks, this would be the year to invest in the defensive tackles. This would be the year, because these guys are so valuable, and it's an elite year for defensive tackles. If you like the one technique guys, you got Kenneth Grant, Tyreek Williams from Ohio State, Nazir Stackhouse, Deion Walker. I just mentioned Jamare Caldwell. There's Jordan Phillips from Maryland. There's Jay Toya from UCLA. CJ West, I just mentioned to you, from Indiana. I love Nash Hutmacher. I ordered my Nash Hutmacher NIL t-shirt to support Nash from Nebraska. He's fantastic. Mason Graham, Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan, Alfred Collins, Shamar Turner, Omar Norman Lott. This is great players. Great players. And that's not even it. Ty Robinson reminds me of Keith Millard from Nebraska. Plays next to Nash. TJ Sanders from South Carolina. Thor Griffith from Louisville. Ty Hamilton's a hell of a player. There's just all kinds of guys. I mentioned Darius Alexander. We just talked about him. Simeon Barrow. Baldy the other day was doing a video on Keontae Hamilton from Rutgers. I'm a huge fan of J.J. Pegues from Ole Miss. The Colorado kid, Chidozie Nwankwo, is a All-American wrestler at 5'11", 290. Ricky Barber from Central Florida is a major pass rusher at 295 pounds. He's probably going to be a day 3 guy. So, but Darius Alexander, this is 6'4", 310. That's good movement ability, man. That's good movement ability at 310. That really is. This guy can play. This guy can absolutely play. So check him out, Darius Alexander. The last big man we're going to talk about is Deion Walker. Deion Walker plays at Kentucky. He's 6'7", 340. He had 97 pressures in his career there, 15 sacks, 70 tackles in 3 years. And this guy moves so well that it's hard to even, 6'7", 342, you'd say, he's a nose guard. But look at him. He just played defensive end right there. Now he's at nose tackle. Look at that. Now he's at defensive tackle. And they line this guy up now he's at defensive end. They're lining him up all over the place. He's a house, but his movement ability and his power, he kind of reminds me of a quicker-footed Michael Brockers. Remember Brockers, who played with the Rams, who was just huge and strong, but slow-footed. This guy's huge and strong, but quick feet. And he could play a 1 technique. He can play, a 3 technique. He could be a 5 technique and a 34 front. He could be a 4-3 defensive tackle. I think if you wanted to, in some jumbo alignments, you could play him as a defensive end. 6'7", 342 defensive end. Deion Walker. Crazy good. All the scouts this week were like, whoa, Deion Walker. Deion Walker doesn't even look like a defensive tackle. His movement ability was incredible. That's close to 350 pounds right there on a 6'7" frame. Which, 6'7" guys sometimes have a hard time playing with leverage, and sometimes they're not good. But this guy can penetrate. Look at that. Look at the penetration. Look at the feet on 6'7", 340. Now, I still think he's a little out of shape, to be honest. And I'd like to see him, drop a few LBs and, just work a little bit more on his lower body strength. His lower legs are a little small for 342. For 6'7", he's going to get cut. He's a little lean in the calves. So I think he needs some work for sure in the weight room. But look at that. 6'7", 350 almost. And he's just, you can play him anywhere on the line. All right. And the last guy on our list, and I was kind of excited today because I was looking at KJ Wright of the 49ers working with Landon Jackson from Arkansas and this guy, David Walker from Central Arkansas. And this is just another guy from a forgettable school with a forgettable name, and he's just going to wind up being there late in the draft. He's going to be a freaking steal. His name's David Walker, and he plays for Central Arkansas. He's 6'2", 260. He was their conference's player of the year last year. He started off at Southern Arkansas and transferred to Central Arkansas. The guy played football, basketball, and soccer in high school, went to high school in the state of Arkansas. But the motor, and he just, the leverage, this guy just keeps coming. He's just a really good defensive end. He's an edge rusher. He's he's not scheme versatile. He's a 4-3 defensive end. He's not an outside linebacker. He's not he's not a 5 technique and a 3-4. He can't play inside. He's a 4-3 outside linebacker and a short one at that, at 6'2". And most of these guys are looking for 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". This guy's 6'2", but he's 260. And he just has a great knack as a pass rusher. I mean, the one thing that does translate from college to the pros is pass rush. If you sack the quarterback in college, you're going to sack the quarterback in the pros. I mean, not for sure, but it translates. Sack production is one of those aspects of college football that tends to translate. You either have the knack to get the quarterback on the ground or you don't. And this guy does. This guy can come off the edge. He's very powerful. I mean, look at that. This is a 260-pound guy. Look at him put his hands and do the two-hand shiver on that right tackle. And look at him, the right tackle just jolted him back. That's power. That's power. And then he just kind of rode him off the left shoulder right to the quarterback's face. But the motor's great. The leverage is great. The efficiency and movement is great. I've watched this guy. This guy's a pretty advanced pass rusher. He doesn't have tons and tons of moves, but he's very, very consistent. He doesn't give away any downs. He really doesn't. He doesn't run the loop. As you see here, he's cutting inside. He likes to go inside. He likes to knife inside. But that right there, that's a stripe on a stripe, boom, right to your face mask. Now I'm going to cut inside. So love that player. Really, and once again, David Walker is his name. And it's people will forget about him. He'll fall to day 3 and he'll be a really, really good player for somebody, you would think. And I once again, that's, this is not an all-inclusive list by any stretch. There's all kinds of guys that I'm sure look good that we didn't see or didn't notice or whatever. I watched practice yesterday. I watched it again. Watched practice today. And we'll see. We'll see what the games look like Thursday night for the Shrine game, Saturday afternoon for the Senior Bowl. But it's not even really about. It's more about these practices than the games. A lot of these scouts don't even stay for the game. Believe it or not, they're there for the practices and then they're down the road. A lot of them don't stay, or they'll watch the game on TV. They'll get the all 22 from the league, 24 hours later or whatever. But it's more about the practices and, how these guys look in the practices and how they take to coaching and, how they take to instruction. That has more to do with the evaluation than the actual game itself. I always like to watch the game because there are guys that are just awesome in practice and the game starts and not as good. So, that, to me, the games still do matter, even though it's an all-star game. But those are the guys that stood out so far, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed some of the footage. We'll do these a couple more times, I'm sure, as we get closer to the draft. Here's Daryl in the chat who says, David Walker, defensive end, 6'2", 260, 77% tackling, 100% pass rush, 100% run defense, 58% coverage. I'm not sure where those numbers are coming from, but he's a player. There's no question. He's a really good player. We got Uncle Salty says, do you think Deion Walker is lazy and takes plays off? I haven't watched enough film to know for sure. I think anybody who's 6'7", 340 and has his kind of body type, I mean, he's got some bad weight on him right now. He's a little bit of a sloppy-bodied guy. So, I haven't watched every snap, but yeah, I bet you anything. 6'7", 340-pound guy from Kentucky probably took a playoff here or there. But he doesn't have that reputation. It's not like he's got a reputation as some malingerer. He's a pretty good player. Really good player, actually. And he's a guy that, even though he's huge, a lot of people think he's a huge defensive end, that he's got the kind of ability to play regularly at defensive end. So, Remigio Martinez says, Ariante Ursary. Yeah, the Minnesota kid. I saw Baldy threw out some highlights of him. He's definitely strong. He's definitely broad. The feet seemed really slow. Really slow. Like, he doesn't look like a left tackle to me. He looks like a right tackle or a guard. The footwork that I saw this week doesn't look like a pass protecting offensive tackle in the NFL. Kevin Alon says this guy's going to be Larry's new Rukaroro. Yeah. I'm not sure who you're talking about, but yeah. I did love Rukaroro. He was my favorite last year. And he was good. I mean, he was good for Atlanta. And he's going to be a really good player probably down the road. We got this one from Scuba Diver. He says, Jamari Caldwell reminds me of Aleem McNeil of the Lions, I guess he's talking about. Yeah, that's not a bad call. I don't think McNeil, though. I think McNeil's like 315, 320. We're talking about a guy who's 25 pounds heavier than that and moves quite a bit better than Aleem McNeil. So, I don't know. I mean, I'll just say this. Oregon has some crazy guys. Derek Harmon, I think, is a really good player. But they do. Oregon gets some. I mean, the guy Birch is 295 or 290, and he's a true defensive end. There was a couple other guys that really did catch my eye this week. One guy that we haven't talked about, but he and I don't know if he's a 4-3 defensive end or if he's a 3-4-5, a 5 technique and a 34 front. But the Ole Miss defensive lineman Ivy, who goes about, I think he's an edge rusher, but he's like 280, maybe 285, and he is interesting. Jared Ivy. And just looking at him in some of these drills, and you're thinking, wow, the guy looks pretty good. And then, I was looking at some of the guys he was going before and after, and those guys were like 250, 260. And then Jared Ivy would take his rep, and it's like, whoa, look at this guy. Probably the 2 best states in the country for athletes when it comes to high school football are probably, now some people would say Texas. I don't think so. Some people might say California. I would say no. I would say it's Florida for sure and Georgia. Those are the 2 as far as per capita too. They, especially in a state like Georgia. Georgia doesn't have as many people, but they still have amazing high school football. Jared Ivy is a Georgia guy. He's from Suwanee, Georgia. He went to North Gwinnett High School. Then he started off at Georgia Tech, and he transferred to Ole Miss. And at 6'6", 285, I mean, this guy is really good. He was all SEC third team, voted on by the coaches this year. He was the Peach Bowl defensive MVP a year ago. He was all SEC first team in 2023. This guy, really 16 sacks in his career, 285. But if you sit there and watch him, you're like, wow, this guy's a hell of a pass rusher, and he really, really moves well, and he's just a great athlete. He was a standout basketball player for North Gwinnett. He had scholarship offers to play Division I college basketball, and opted to play football instead. And he is just a crazy athlete. So, I mean, Jared Ivey is another one of these guys that is just, Ole Miss. If you watch Ole Miss, they had Walter Nolan, they had J.J. Pegues, they had all kinds of guys on both sides of the ball. In some ways, I think Lane Kiffin had some of the greatest talent in all of college football. But I mean, Jared Ivey was just a guy on their defensive line, and he's like a super athletic defensive end at 6'6", 285. So yeah, I mean, this guy, I don't know what round he's going in. He's probably going to be like a 4th or 5th or 6th rounder. It's probably a day 3 guy. Probably maybe early day 3, 4th or 5th round. He's got a little bit of bad weight on him. He could definitely get in a little bit better shape. He could get that 6'6", 285 down to 6'6", 275, and he'd probably be better off. But Jared Ivey, body lean, production, length, athleticism, balance, plays the game on his feet. Yeah, he's big time player. Probably going to be a day 3 steal. So that's going to do it for us. Lots of good names in here. I'm sure you guys have lots of your own thoughts on this. Thanks for watching the Krug Show. Thanks to Better for sponsoring the video. Thanks to Sharp Corners as well. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for sponsoring the Krug Show. That's going to do it for us. Make sure you tune in tonight at 6 o'clock on KMBR for Niners Nightly. Jordan Elliott's going to stop by, and we'll talk a little bit about the week that is going on in Mobile and how that affects the Niners. He did a full breakdown on both the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen, and I would say the Niners' number one goal is to fix the line of scrimmage. So Jordan Elliott, who's a really smart guy, I'm not talking about the Niner defensive tackle, who's a great guy too, but I'm talking about the guy who writes for NBC Sports Bay Area. He's going to join me tonight at 6:15. So stop by tonight on the, I was going to say the Krug Show, but it's not the Krug Show. It's Niners Nightly on KMBR from 6 until 7. And Jordan Elliott will be by. We'll talk linemen. We'll talk linemen tonight with the great Jordan Elliott. Come on Friday, as this one. He says, Krug, what do you think of Kuithi, tight end from Utah? Feels like he'll be a late round steal. I see a little in him. I'm not sure what he sees in him. As I said, it is an awesome draft. He's a solid tight end. I watched a lot of Utah. The Utes have a really good program. The one thing you can say about almost every guy that comes out of that program, I mean, a guy like this, he can block. This guy can block. He's listed as 412th overall, which would mean he's projected as an undrafted player. He's only 236 pounds. But yeah, good football player. Brant, is it Queeth? He's from Katy, Texas. And he's a little shorter than you want your tight end. Usually tight end you want 6'4" to 6'6". He's 6'2". But he has 60 career games, 32 career starts. Definitely like that. He's played, he's all conference, second team in 2020, second team all conference in 2021. Had some injuries in 2022, it looks like. Yeah, but I mean, good football player, really solid. I don't see super dynamic, but you know what? He's definitely a good receiver. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of Cinco Ranch High School. And 3-time all-district player in high school. So all-academic all-district player, 2-time first-team all-district. Competed in track and field. He was a sprinter and a long jumper. So his father is a second-generation player. His dad played at North Texas. And he's got a twin brother who used to play defensive end, Blake, with the Utes. So Kuithi, I think is how you pronounce it. Kuithi. Brant Kuithi. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a day 3 tight end or most likely an undrafted free agent tight end. But he was good at Utah, and he was very dependable. So I like Kuithi for sure. Good football player, great program. Love that program. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to all of you guys. We had somebody in here who actually just said Kuithi. Leon's asking about Jack Nelson from Wisconsin. Big-bodied tackle. Long arms. I really like him. Leon says Keithy is a perfect Juice replacement. Undersized tight end, but super smart, versatile, willing blocker. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely more like a fullback size. Daryl's got some numbers on Jared Ivey. 6'6", 285, 89% tackling, 91% pass rush, 83% run defense. These PFF grades. So I would imagine those are PFF grades. But anyway, that's going to do it for us. Have a great rest of your day. It's time for me to maybe throw some weights around this afternoon, try to get in a little bit better shape. Check me out at 6 o'clock on KMBR. And thanks for all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show. And have a great day. Once again, thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Better. Thanks to Sharp Corners for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.